Y'all, why am I here on YouTube creating these videos? I don't know. Okay, I'm lying. I do know. I do know. You know how you start to know something, but it still hasn't really settled within you? I'm at that phase where it's like I'm accepting it. I have accepted it. I am happy about it. So let's just dive right into it. But first, excuse me, where are my manners? Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is Dr. Knox, DMP, and today I am sharing with you all my journey here to YouTube. Okay, so we ended the last video talking about my healing journey, and I ended it saying, just kind of talking about the power of journaling. So hopefully by now, if not, this is another sign. Dust off that old journal, start to utilize it, or go and buy one. You can find them very cheaply. You can even just go out and buy a spiral notebook and use that as a journal. So hopefully you guys have done that. So we're picking up from that standpoint. Through journaling and lots of prayer, lots of therapy, lots of conversations, and lots of honestly just sitting with myself, getting to know myself, spending time with myself, and following kind of like this trail, this pathway that I felt like God was leading me down, I noticed that there were five main things, five core things that started to emerge and really sit heavily with me. And so we're going to dive right into that. Number one was something I still struggle a bit with, just owning. I do believe that in this world there are people who have natural gifts, natural talents, that are naturally good at certain things, and I don't know, for some reason when it comes to saying that about myself, it feels uncomfortable. But the first thing that emerged for me was the awareness and acceptance of the fact that I do have a gift of discernment, and my intuition is pretty strong. I have a sense of knowing. It's very difficult to try to put into words. I remember having a conversation with a friend one time, and we were talking about just like goals. We were talking about the future, and she asked me like, "Oh, like you're able to like you visualize like your future?" And I just remember thinking like, no, I've never really visualized my future as far as like being able to see the things that I want to come to fruition. For me, my entire life, it's been a sense of like, it's just a sense of knowing. It's a feeling that I have about certain things. It's not everything. I can't like tell you the future or anything like that. For example, I always knew that I was going to be a mom. And it's so strange because I didn't grow up thinking about marriage or like having a partner or the white dress and the wedding. Like that wasn't my reality, but I always knew. I just had this sense, this feeling, this knowing that I would be a mom. And my ex-husband and I remember us trying to, have our first child, and it just wasn't happening the way that we anticipated that it would. And I remember praying and saying like, hey, if it's not meant for me to be a mom, like cool, but like what is this that I'm feeling? Like it feels like it's already so. And so it just felt weird. It's like I know I'm supposed to be a mom, but this is not happening in the time frame that I expected it would happen. So it's just that sense of knowing. Obviously, eventually I did end up having my son, and it didn't feel weird because it's like I already had the feeling of knowing that I would be a mom. I don't know if that makes any sense. Okay, so I do have a gift of discernment, of intuition, of knowing when it comes to certain things. I don't get to pick and choose what they'll be, but the things that I do have it about, I feel very strongly about. Another example being, even while I was going through my divorce process, I don't know, I've always felt, and I still very strongly have this sense of knowing that I will get married again. And so my prayer now is I'm leaning into it, I'm trusting it, I'm acknowledging that the feeling and the presence of that is there. But my prayer to God is whether it happens in a year, whether it happens in 10 years, I know it's going to be beautiful. So number two was that I don't want to achieve just for the sake of achieving. And what I mean by that is, so education was a pillar in my household growing up. My father was very passionate about the importance of being educated. And so I definitely took heed to that. I went to undergrad, I got my bachelor's, I went on to get my master's, I went on to get my doctoral degree. And while I don't say that I got my degrees just for the sake of getting them, school was something that I laugh because one of my friends, Misty, comes to mind. She often says, I don't know anybody that likes school as much as you. And it's not that I like school. I do like school. I like learning. I'll put it like that. I like learning and I like a challenge. School has always been one of those things that I knew when I get into the program, I'm going to finish it on time. There's never been any doubt about it. I remember applying to my BSN program, and people were telling me that they were applying to 5 and 6 different schools. I don't know, for some reason that just never resonated with me. I was like, I applied to one, I meet the criteria, like why wouldn't they accept me? And then they did. And I went on to do that with my master's and with my doctorate. I just applied to one school and I got in. It was that sense of knowing that I didn't need to apply to multiple schools. So number one's tying into number two. But the main point of number two is I don't want to just achieve things because I can. There are a lot of things that I know if I put my energy behind it, I really buckle down and like focus on it, that I could be successful in it. I was actually on the path of doing something completely different when this whole journey started and kind of ensued, and it led me down a different path. And it was honestly, I feel like God telling me, like, yes, you can do this thing and you will be successful in it, but I'm calling you to do something else. So it was a matter of doing something that I've been trained to do versus doing something that I'm feeling called to do. Another thing that really emerged for me was, I want to say since middle school, I think a lot of shifts started to happen for me in middle school, but I can even see patterns of it from elementary school. I've always felt a strong connection, honor, and respect for my ancestors. It is not something that I take lightly. Our history, our cultures, our beauty. And so even me getting my DNP, so my doctorate of nursing practice, a lot of people ask me why I went back to school. My friend Misty would say, because I like school. But that was not the case. It wasn't because I wanted to make more money. It wasn't because it came with like extra perks. It wasn't because of any of those things. The question was more, why not? I know that school is something that I like. I like a challenge. I know that I'll get into the program. I know that I'll complete the program. So why not? I do believe that our community benefits from having representation in higher places. So for me, holding a doctoral degree, being a Black woman in this society was important for people to be able to see this is possible. We can reach these heights as well. And also for me, it was, I look at my son and I want him to know that anything is possible. Like, we can reach the highest highs if we put our minds to it. So for me, it was less about me. It was more about community. It was more about the culture. And so that was one of the main reasons that I went back. And a personal reason that I went back was just, I want to excel. There's really no other way to put it. I want to be able to do the big things. I want to be able to excel at the big things. I want to be able to put my mind to something and go for it and see it come to fruition. So I did that. Another thing that I've had so many micro lessons on throughout my entire life is that God has to be at the center. Whenever I lose sight of that, whenever that is not in the picture, things do not go as smoothly as they probably would have had I kept him in the center. And so that is something that I've learned time and time and time and time and time again. I really had to learn to, there's a song, and I'm sure it's a phrase too, that we have to let go and let God. That rings so true for me. And I don't know, there was such a sense of freedom in knowing that I'm not in control. Like, I'm in control to a certain extent, but I'm not the only one in control. And so it was like a weight lifted from my shoulders once I came to the actual realization of that. It's like, yes, I'm working on my behalf, but God is also working on my behalf. And this is just my personal belief. I believe that the prayers of my mother are working on my behalf as well. I believe that the prayers of our ancestors are working on our behalf. So it's like, it's not just me. I'm in this thing. It's a team effort. So knowing that God needs to stay at the center has been a really, really big thing for me. Which leads me to my next point, and that is my purpose is bigger than just me. And I love that for me. Okay. I don't know. It just feels like, I don't know. I know that I'm not going to be here forever. And so it gives me this sense of like freedom and permission to kind of swing from the chandeliers, if you will. And I don't know, that feels rejuvenating for me. It feels amazing to me. It's almost like it gives me a little charge. It makes me excited to just like, hey, you ain't gonna be here forever. Here, like I said last time, here for a good time, not a long time. Go after it. Why not? Like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? I stay exactly where I am. Where I am now is not a bad place to be. So for me, it's like, try, take the risk, go out there, live the big life, dream bigger. I do think that our purpose in life is bigger than us when it comes to not only purpose, but even when it comes to our romantic and our platonic relationships, when it comes to community. And so that is something that has been brought up several times for me that I'm now kind of anchored in myself. And that actually leads me to my last point, which is anchoring is imperative. It sort of ties in number 4, that God needs to be at the center, but this expands on it a bit more. I've realized that when I am not centered, when I am not anchored, I tend to be more frazzled. I tend to be more fearful. I tend to be more doubtful. And so I have learned different things along the way of me just being in this life that are tried and true, that work for me. I have this arsenal, this toolbox of resources that I know will get me back centered and in alignment every time. So all of these things started to like really surface for me. And there's one thing to know something, and there's one thing to really know something. Like there's one thing to know something on a superficial level, and it's one thing to know something like in your core, to have that belief ingrained in you. For example, when one of the core things that I mentioned was God being at the center. I know there are many people who would agree, like, yes, God needs to be at the center. There's one thing to know it and agree with it and believe that God needs to be at the center. It's another thing to embody that God needs to be at the center. Two different senses of knowing. There's this level over here where like, yes, I understand that, I agree with it, I believe it. And then also like, no, I know this to be true and I operate from this space. So those core concepts have been ingrained in me and now are honestly some of the core values about life and myself that I operate from. So I started to see all of these puzzle pieces coming together. It's like, I feel like God was leaving this trail of breadcrumbs, and it's like, oh, I see where he's leading me in some capacity. And I started to see a couple things. One of the first things that I started to really see clearly was my father's legacy. And I don't know if my father was still alive, if I would have been able to see it so clearly like I do now. But there were 3 things that my father was extremely passionate about, and everyone knew it. Number 1, as I mentioned before, he was really big on education. That was something that was repeatedly instilled in us as we grew up. Number 2 was entrepreneurship and believing in yourself to dream bigger. I don't think my father ever told me that there was anything that I couldn't do. Not that we like talked about those types of things, but he would always tell me, like, if you focused on your books and stopped like wanting to like go out with your friends and party and do all these things, like you can literally accomplish anything that you want. Like if you focus and you put your mind to it. And the third thing that my father was really passionate about was nutrition. And it just seems so crazy to me. It's something that's literally been in my face my entire life. And I never really thought anything of it. I literally remember being, in like elementary school, and my father like juicing carrots and like oranges. And I remember specifically with the carrots, the juicers have the pulp that comes out. I used to love eating the carrot pulp that would come out. Literally my whole entire life, my father has been pretty health conscious. And so I grew up with that just as a way of being. literally from my earliest memory of like us in the kitchen juicing to the moment of my father's memorial service, literally every single person that came up to speak about his life said the same thing. I won't say his name for privacy reasons, but they're like, this man always made sure to make it a point to talk about nutrition. My friends that have come in contact with my dad know he's going to talk to you about what you're eating. I don't believe that we are born to our parents by coincidence. I think everything is by design. And so I do feel a sense of connection in that way to my father. Another thing that started to surface for me was the answer of what I would do for free. One of the big things that I always enjoy, that I wish and I need to do better at, is mentorship. I had some really amazing mentors growing up that really helped to shape me into the person that I am today. And the other thing that popped up for me is I've always known that I want to help people. I think a lot of nurses can probably resonate with that in some capacity. And there's many ways that you can help people. For me specifically, in the work that I do, I've been taking care of sick people since 2010 in the capacity as a nurse. Well, actually, in the capacity as a nurse, yes, but I have been taking care of sick people before that. One of my first jobs before becoming a nurse, I was a nurse aide, medication aide at a nursing home. It was a summer job when I was in undergrad. And so I've been around people who are sick for a very long time. And something that had been on my mind for years now is I want to get more into like preventative medicine. That is something that I would do for free. Help people to not get as sick as our society is getting. I think the US does a very poor job at preventing sickness. And so that is something that I started to realize. Like, I really do want to help in a more impactful, in a more meaningful way. Another thing that surfaced for me was the power of obedience and discipline, and the power of the choices that we choose to make or not make. We really can create the life that we desire. It may not happen in the time frame that we want it or that we envision it to happen, but somehow it always ends up working out, sometimes even better than what we've envisioned. I am a believer in tough love to an extent, and we can make excuses all day long, or we can start to take small steps in the right direction, in the direction of the life that we want to create. We live in a society where instant gratification is the thing, but there's something beautiful in the long game. There's something beautiful in the marathon of life when you choose and you decide to show up for yourself consistently, even when there's fear of the unknown, even when there's doubt, even when there's a little bit of a scarcity mindset. I think understanding the power of obedience and understanding the power of choice have been really monumental to me in this time period of my life. Also, the concept of fear and how it is to our detriment. When I tell y'all, self-sabotage is real. It's something that I've had to work through. It is something that I still have up and downs with, but even the people that we surround ourselves with and their limiting beliefs about us, that can shape us. The lies that we tell ourselves, all of those things really started to surface for me in a meaningful way. And I think it was God trying to teach me something, trying to show me that these things are obstacles and that there are things that I need to work through. And lastly, I started to see a real strong need for community. It's one of those things also that I knew, but it wasn't really ingrained in me. And now it's like I said earlier, everything is we. It's not just about us as an individual. And I do think that most people would agree with that. I don't think that innately we are selfish by nature in every capacity. And so the power of community, the need for community, has been something that has been really heavy on my mind lately as well. But even as all of these things were being shown to me and brought to me consistently, and as I started to kind of figure out this puzzle, I still fought against it a lot. I feel like there have been times in my life where God has told me, like, you need to use your voice, and I never knew what it meant. I was like, I use my voice at work every day. And so I felt a call, a really strong pull to come back on social media and use my voice. And people that have known me for many years know that I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I think it can be immensely beautiful and beneficial, and I think it can also, when used improperly, can be extremely detrimental. So I was always like, I would pray, like, Lord, like, guide me, but don't guide me over there. I'm not trying to do that. Naturally, I'm a very chill, low-key, reserved person. I have a good balance. Like, I'll go and I'll dance in the middle of the dance floor, but I'll do like one song and that's it. That's a wrap. Like, I want to go back to the corner and just chill, people watch. I've never had a desire to be front facing. So it also was like, okay, I feel like you're calling me back to social media. Like, I can be a creative, I can help be behind the scenes, but as long as I'm not front facing, like, I got you. And he was like, no, I need you to use your voice and use your face and use your presence. So I fought against it a lot. I cried about it because I was just like, I don't want to do this. It was something that I really had to like sit with and come to terms with. I've now accepted it. And yeah, this is me being obedient to what I feel I'm called to do. I specifically remember an instance. I was in bed, and I don't know what was happening in the world at the time, but it led me to think, man, there's so much darkness in this world. Like, I was really just having a moment and feeling really pessimistic about a lot of things. And immediately something dropped on me, and it was like, okay, be the light. And I was just like, I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit. And I don't know, that really just, that moment stuck with me. And I really do believe that there is light in this world. And as much darkness as there is, I believe that by shining our lights individually and collectively, we can help drown out some of that darkness. The thought process that I went through was, if I'm not even willing to stand up and put my little light up, like, you know, imagine how many other people are also having that same thought of like, just me, one person, like, it's not going to make a difference. Like, you start to have all of these thoughts. But eventually it landed on, okay, I'm going to do it. I plan to use this platform not only as an act of obedience, but also as a love letter to myself and my individual journey, as an act of rebellion. It's sort of my middle finger to the darkness, to the fear, to the doubt. And ultimately, I plan on using this platform as a safe space for growth, health, and wellness. My focus will center around healing our minds, healing our bodies, and healing our souls through community. I want us all of us, everybody, every single person, to live healthier lives now and later. So I'm excited for the journey. I thank you guys so much for watching this introductory series. Stay tapped in with me. If you have not already, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment. Have you ever felt a strong calling towards something that you are scared to maybe embark on? Know that you're not scared alone. Know that I am here embarking on this journey alongside you, because I believe that you are going to tap into that and start to act and walk in that. And if you've already started walking in that, how has that journey felt? I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what your thoughts are. Until next time.